According to Small Business Trends, 1 in 4 entrepreneurs fail at least once before succeeding. They also discovered in a July 2021 study that it takes entrepreneurs an average of 3 years of running their business before it begins to support them financially. Terry Wildemann is affectionately known as the intuitive truth detective. Why? Because she helps her clients eliminate their self-sabotaging blocks towards success in life and in business. With her help, her clients work to reignite and realign their businesses for success. She's also an author of 7 published books, and she has 2 solo books. The latest, entitled The Enchanted Boardroom, evolve into an unstoppable leader. She joined me this week to have a conversation about realigning businesses, reigniting passion, and finding your business sweet spot. I'm Kevin McShane. Let's have this conversation. I'll take a moment to welcome you to the program, and I'm excited to learn all about your experience in business. Great to see you this afternoon, and thank you so very much
Okay,
for being here.
let's do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Terry, tell me, what do you think it means to be intuitive in business?
It's about trusting your gut, trusting the images that come, trusting some of those disembodied words that come, trusting how you feel that something is off. And many entrepreneurs, you're very highly experienced and very well-known entrepreneurs, do a lot with their intuition because they've learned that when they don't listen to those intuitive hits, they can live to regret it.
Yeah, and they call you the intuitive detective because you help people sort of eliminate their self-sabotage in business. So tell me about living up to that motto, and what does that mean to you?
Well, because I am intuitive, highly intuitive, I'm called the truth detective because when my clients hire me, they know up front there's very little that they're going to be able to keep away from me. I can find things and sense things very, very quickly. For example, I just had somebody that I worked with last week who came very, very excited, and she basically said, "Oh, I know who my ideal client is, blah, blah, blah." And about 3 questions later, I saw her jumping out of her seat and very excited because she was talking about a current client. And I said, "Guess what? Your avatar, your ideal client that you shared with me about 2 questions back, that's not your ideal client. This person that makes you jump out of your seat and excited, that's your ideal client." And the look on her face was absolute shock because she was so convinced that she had it all together. She had worked on it for so long, and she realized that I was exactly right. The other one was sort of blah. The excited one, it was like, woo, because I read energy and I can see very clearly what works with people, what doesn't work with people. I'm also a holistic practitioner, and I became a holistic practitioner, even though I've been in business for 40 years. I became a holistic practitioner because I burned out multiple times. And I knew after the last time I burned out that I had to do something different. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a difference. So that's when I got certified with the Heart Math Institute as a stress coach. And then I got certified as a coactive coach. I got certified as an executive coach and an NLP practitioner. I became a Reiki master back in 1998. And I do emotion code and body code, you name it, all these things that I'm certified in. And I did it all to help me heal in mind, body, and spirit so I could be present, not only for my business and my clients, but mostly for my family and myself. And when I learned all that stuff and learned to get rid of the self-sabotaging BS that was in my way, that's where the magic and the miracles began to happen.
Yeah, and you use your experience to help your clients sort of reassess and realign their businesses. So, what do you think is the key to realigning businesses and really sharpening your focus in business?
The key is we have to start with you first. It's not about the business. We need to start with you first. Because when you shift out of your head and into your heart, you are actually working with the heart rules the emotions, the head rules your thoughts. If your thoughts are off, it's affecting what's happening with your heart. And when you connect the brain and the head and the heart, which is a brain, when you connect the two of them together, you're working with two very powerful brains and you're coherent, you're confident, competent, and credible. So when we start with you first, we reignite you. Then when we reignite you and we get rid of what's not working within you, then we can look at your business and reignite your business. If we try to reignite your business without getting you in integrity, authenticity, and alignment, it does not work.
Yeah, and how do you think COVID has really affected people's ability to sort of realign and focus on their business post-COVID?
I think what COVID did was it forced people to take a good look at what it is they were doing. COVID did not affect me because I've been working online for the last 10 years. And it was really not a big deal. And I still had my clients. I still, everything was status quo for me because I've been a global consultant for the last, like I said, the last 10 years. But I find that with those folks who are entrepreneurs or consultants who are not used to the online space, they had to really do some jumping through hoops to align themselves with that different energy and different ways of making of not having that in-person connection. I don't need that in-person connection. Because again, I'm so used to connecting online with people around the world that for me it was very easy. And I love traveling. So wherever I go, I ended up connecting with people. I can connect with people globally wherever I am. It's a laptop lifestyle. And what's beautiful about it is change is a wonderful thing. What COVID did was it held up the mirror to what needed to change if you're an entrepreneur and how to do things better or do things differently.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know one of the ways that you help people sort of develop themselves from a business perspective is you created Intuitive Leadership U to
I
provide,
did.
yeah, to provide a personal and professional development and programs. So I'm wondering if you can tell me about it.
Sure. In 2020, for the last 10 years, I've been traveling a lot to the Miami area because I was caregiving for parents. My parents were elderly. And in 2020, when everything got shut down, it gave me the opportunity to sit still after 7 years. And I created Intuitive Leadership U, which offers personal and professional development courses, as well as coaching and VIP days and masterminds for entrepreneurs to assist them to elevate themselves in the spiritual side of their business, the personal side of the business, and the practical side of business. So we have Intuitive Leadership U Student Center that folks go to when they wanted to, when they're about to take their courses. And it's just a great way to reconnect. What I do is I help entrepreneurs connect the practical, tactical, and logical with the emotional, the energetic, the spiritual, and the intuitive.
Yeah, absolutely. And Terry, I'm curious to ask you because I know you host a podcast yourself about the podcast you host, and how do you think podcasting can help businesses get their messages across?
It can. Now podcasting, my podcasting is on a hiatus. It's been on the Awaken the Possibilities has been on a hiatus now for about 15 months. I'm still debating whether I'm going to resurrect it or not. And I was also doing Shiftology Live, which went on hold over the last 6 months because the caregiving took over. And I needed to go down to Miami to support my parents again. And I just said, something's got to go. So the podcasting went on hold for a little while. And I will share with you that podcasting is a lot of fun. It's a lot of work. It can be a lot of work. It depends on how you do it. I've done it the hard way and I've done it the simple way. And I've had 5 different podcasts, and it can get your message out if you are clear on what your message is. And some podcasters aren't. They're not really clear on what it is they're doing. In my very first podcast, I wasn't really clear on what I was doing and how I was doing. I was doing a lot of interviews. So it's about deciding, is it going to be an interview style podcast? Is it going to be just a talking head type podcast? Is it going to be a hybrid of both? What kind of podcast do you want to use to get your message out there? And how deep and how wide do you want to take it? Do you want to make it super professional, or do you want to do it sort of like a on the couch chat where it doesn't require a lot of editing and you add a front end and a back end, and bada bing, bada boom, you upload it to YouTube and you're done. That kind of thing. So there's a lot of different ways of doing podcasts, and there's a lot of professionals teaching podcasting on there, and they have their opinions on how to do it. So if anybody wants to get into podcasting, I highly suggest that they look up, study podcasting on YouTube. There's some great books out there on podcasting, and lots of information on Google on how to get a podcast started.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Tara, just to share a little bit about myself, I was actually born with what's called spastic quadriplegia cerebral palsy. Simply means that I don't have enough oxygen to walk normally. I'm curious to ask you your opinion about diversity, equity, and inclusion, because part of my professional background is also helping individuals with physical disabilities find and maintain employment. So I'm curious about your perspective on D&I and how much of a competitive advantage it can be for businesses.
Well, I'm going to be very honest with you, Kevin. I don't get into it. I take people where they are. I take people exactly where they are, regardless of race, creed, color, style. I don't care what they are. I really, really don't. So that's how I operate. I don't make it a mission to do inclusion. I don't make it a mission to do this or that. I take people exactly where they are, and work with them where they are. That's my personal. I have people from all different races and creeds in my own family. And it's something that I'm very passionate about, that I don't want to even go there. I don't like to go to that space, because I find that then it puts a layer of judgment that I don't like to do for myself, and I don't like to do for other people. So I'm very clear that when I interact with folks, I interact with their whole being, their whole mind, their whole body, their whole spirit. And that's how I work it. Not everybody else may do that, and they don't do that, but that's me.
Yeah, absolutely. Always look at the person for the merit they bring to the table. Absolutely.
Yep.
And Terry, I'm curious to ask you about your latest book, The Enchanted Boardroom, because I know that you're an author of up to 7 books so far. So
Yeah.
tell me about the latest one and why you have such a passion for writing.
Well, it's interesting because writing found me. I didn't go looking for it. Okay. I'm in 7 co-authored books. I have a garage full of books. Uh, and I have written 2 solo books. My first book was in 1998. It was called 1-800-Courtesy, Connecting with the Winning Telephone Image. And I was teaching telephone skills. And what was interesting is I walked in to pick up some books that were being donated to an organization where I was the keynote speaker. And the organizer called me and asked me if I would go pick up the books because they were close to where I lived. I said, yeah, sure, why not? The place was 3 minutes away. I walked in, and 3 hours later, I walked out with the book contract. I sat in the car and screamed out of sheer panic. And then my last solo book, which is The Enchanted Boardroom, is a book that is all about integrating mind, body, and spirit. And it's about how to access your spiritual boardroom. You know, in business world, we have our physical boardroom. We have those folks that we work with that connect with us in person that we can speak with. And your enchanted boardroom are your ascended masters, your angels, your guides, the people who work with you from the other side. And I've got some pretty heavy hitters that sit in my table, and I do my meditation every day, and I connect with them, and I get lots of insights. And I love teaching this to entrepreneurs because meditation, even if it's just for 15 minutes a day, makes such a difference in how you work in all areas of your life. So that's what the Enchanted Boardroom is about. It is, I don't promote it that much right now because I'm rewriting it to make it sharper and crisper. You know how you look back on things and you go, I published that? That's what I wrote? So I'm going back and redoing it again. But thank you so much for asking. It was a lot of fun writing it.
Yeah, Terry, no problem. You know, as a journalist, Terry, I always remember the questions that I don't ask, right? So I
Yeah.
can relate in that way. But I'm curious to ask you about how you describe or define effective leadership in business.
To me, well, and everybody has a different perspective. To me, an effective leader is a servant leader. It is a leader who understands how to get the best out of their employees. They work from the heart. It's heart-centered leadership. They use their intuitive gifts. They use their practical gifts. They use all of their gifts to be able to listen, communicate, and expand on bringing out the best on every single person that is an employee or a coworker. It's about what can I do for you versus what you can do for me. And effective leadership, and I really prefer heart-centered leadership versus effective leadership, because effective leadership is just doing enough. Heart-centered leadership and servant leadership takes it to the next level and really makes people feel safe. It makes people that they are operating in a place where they are where they are appreciated, and the leaders are in gratitude to have them there. And it really makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah, so how, building on it, how do you think leaders can meet the people that work for them where they are and really maximize their productivity at work?
Well, the first word that comes to mind is listening. And the second word is compassion. If you learn how to listen and really listen well, it's not about listening with your ears. It's about listening with your mind, your heart, and your soul to the other person and being fully present in the moment. Lots of times as a leader, as a manager, and not all managers are leaders and not all leaders are managers, by the way. Okay. So when you are in that leadership capacity, it's about dropping what you're doing and truly listening to the person who is there. It's having the ability to ask open-ended questions. It's about asking the people who are in the trenches what their thoughts are about a specific thing because they see things differently than you do. It's about when you ask those open-ended questions, it's about asking even more questions and allowing the employee to share with you what is really going on. And when they're not talking with you and you get that gut sense, remember we started the conversation with what is intuition. If something doesn't feel right to you, it's about keep going and looking and asking more questions and getting really clear on what that gut piece is, because chances are you're onto something, and that something could be critical to the mission of your business, or to the department, or to the employee, or to the coworkers.
Yeah, and to that point, and Terry, I'm also wondering your perspective on how you live sort of a balanced work day. And what I mean by that is, when you get new entrepreneurs, they're always excited about their new idea and bringing it to the marketplace. But I'm also curious to ask you about how do you balance yourself so that you're not totally worn down at the end of a business day.
Well, you're speaking my language where that's concerned, because that's why I burned out so many times. First of all, there's no such thing as balance. Okay. And I'm going to prove it to you. Imagine that this is a balance, like the legal justice system. Okay. The balance, the scales of balance.
Yeah.
And if it's balanced, and I'm going to pretend they're even, they're balanced. What do you see? You see anything?
No.
Okay. But you notice that there's no movement?
There's no movement. You're right. Yeah.
There's no movement. So it's not about looking for work-life balance, because this is where you go to meditate. This is where you go to think. This is where you go to get quiet. What you strive for, what I share with my clients is we strive for work-life harmony. So you go through the areas of life like this, and you adapt to wherever you are in the moment. You've got health, finances, education, relationships, and career. Those are the 5 basic areas, in your life. So when you work in any of those 5 areas, when you are working, it's about being fully committed, but it's also about putting up boundaries. When you don't have boundaries, that's when the harmony begins to disappear. And work-life harmony is so important, because when you are clear that now I'm going to share something very personal that happened at the end of the month to help you understand this harmony piece. Both my parents fell in October. My mom was 98, my dad was 96. And when they fell, they became toddlers, okay? Toddlers with walkers. It was that kind of thing. And it got really hard, and I realized I had to put my business aside. That is called being focused and stepping into trust and belief that all is going to be taken care of. The harmony that I created was in releasing my business in that moment in time in order to be able to take care of the issues at hand. Okay, so that's family and relationships. Then when I came home, we lost my mom in October. I came home mid-December, and then the holidays hit. I realized I could not focus on my relationships in my family because I was exhausted. I needed to take care of myself first. So I put myself first, took care of me. We did not put up one Christmas decoration. We did not put up any lights this year, the first year ever in my 35 years of marriage. Okay. Instead, we jumped in the car and we went down to my daughter's house and celebrated Christmas with them because I needed to heal. When we got back, I sat down and said, okay, I need to reignite my business. What am I going to do? And I'm staring at my website and I realized I had something backwards on it. The front page, you will see 3 icons. And I had the icon as the practical. We focus on the practical, the personal, and the spiritual. And what I realized is that's the wrong way. It has to be the spiritual first, the personal, and then the practical. And that day I switched everything around on my website and I just surrendered. And what I will tell you is I have gotten more business since I've done that. Okay, than I have in the last year, because I created harmony in my world by being fully present in the moment and focusing on what was important. Does that make sense?
It certainly does. And it's important to be self-aware in all aspects of life, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And Terry, I'm curious, outside of the office, I know that you value family so much, and I'm curious, what do you like to do away from the office and away from your business for fun? And how do you describe personal fulfillment?
Well, what I love doing for fun is traveling. I do enjoy traveling. We live 2 miles from the beach, so we go to the beach and walk a lot. My husband goes swimming. It's too the water's appears too cold for me. So while he's in the water, I walk up and down. So I walk a couple miles, feeling the sand under my feet. I really, really enjoy that. And honestly, one of the things you may laugh, but I love my work. My work for me is more than, it. I love it when I can sit down and have a great conversation with people like with you. This to me really charges me up, and this is a lot of fun for me. I love visiting different parts of the country. Um, uh, I love to read. Actually, I like to listen. I've really gotten into audio, listening to books while I'm walking. I really enjoy that. I used to sew a lot and play the piano, and I'm thinking maybe I'm going to get back into that a little bit. We need to retune my piano. And when it comes to self-fulfillment, it's about listening to what feels good. Because when you listen to what feels good and how you feel in every moment of every minute, it really makes all the difference in the world. The best way to describe it is about being aware. And when you're aware of what's happening, say you're having a conversation, and all of a sudden your body doesn't feel right in the middle of this conversation. You either get a discomfort in your belly or discomfort in your knee or in your elbow or in your arm. That is a message from your body saying, ask another question. Something isn't quite right. Ask another question. Maybe change the dialogue. Maybe you're not meant to go there, that kind of thing. So that awareness creates a lot of self-fulfillment because it opens the door to what feels good for you and will identify for you what isn't the right thing for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And Terry, I can see in your background it says, make today a little special. So tell me, what does that mean to you?
We all have opportunities every single moment of every single day to make things extra special if we choose to. It's about giving a little bit more, either to somebody else or to yourself. And I'm not talking about narcissistic behavior when I'm talking about yourself. I'm talking about intense self-care. So make today a little extra special by maybe if you're at the grocery store, buying yourself a bunch of flowers, or buying yourself an extra treat for yourself, or paying for the person behind you when you're at the toll booth, or when you're in the grocery store aisle, somebody's short on change. Hey, here, I got it. That kind of doing little special things that will make the day special for somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely. And you had mentioned, Terry, that you've been married for about 35 years. So tell me, what's the secret to a successful marriage in your view?
Respect. It's respect and support. We're a military family, and I got to tell you, it takes a lot to be a military spouse, and it takes two to raise that. When you're on your own and your spouse is out there doing what they need to do, and now I'm a military mom also. So my eldest daughter is a naval officer. So it's the best thing I can say. It's really respect, communication. Those two are the biggest things: respect and support. Just supporting one another and being honest. That's part of the communication piece. It really is important to be honest, be authentic in your feelings and emotions. And one thing that my husband and I had to really learn was how to communicate so that we can share how we feel without putting the other person down. That takes a lot of work. And it really is important to step out of that judgment place and step into that tell me more place.
Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely. Terry, that can be applied to any aspect of life. All
Yeah,
respect, communication, and meeting people where they are. Would you agree with that?
absolutely. Yeah, because we communicate everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And finally, I'm wondering your thoughts on how you want your personal and professional legacy to be defined.
Thank you for asking that. That's a very special question. As a leader, holistic practitioner, working with my clients, my legacy is that every single person that I work with, whether it's a one-on-one client or people who are parts of my masterminds, that I help them own who they are meant to be in this lifetime and leave the world a better place. I want, a lot of people say like, oh my gosh, you're somebody said this to me the other day. She says, I have 4 coaches who do what you do in one package. And I'm like, well, you know, my goal is, she says, how do people become you? I said, that's what I do. I don't want them to become me. I want them to be them. And I want them to be better than me. I want them to be able to rise up to their potential and be the people that they are meant to be in this lifetime, because our world needs them.
Yeah, absolutely. And finally, tell me, Terry, if people want to get connected with you, what's the best way they can do that?
Just sent me an email at terry@intuitiveleadership.com. And if they're on Facebook, we just started a new Facebook group called Limitless Prosperity. So join me there. And my website is intuitiveleadership.com.
Well, fantastic. Terry, I really enjoyed engaging in conversation with you this afternoon. I want to wish you much success with your continued endeavors, and I want to thank you for being here this afternoon. It's most appreciated.
Kevin, thank you. This has been so special. It really, really has been. And I applaud you for a wonderful podcast.